Yes, and had his cell phone out, and that's when he saw something that was darker than what a deer would have been, kind of crouching behind a tree.
When the night falls over America's wildest places, legends wake. In the Pacific Northwest, Trent's lonely trek turns sinister. A family in Washington captures a towering shadow. On Vancouver Island, Ted's motorhome shakes as if gripped by a giant hand. In Florida's swamps, a creature meets Jeff's gaze before vanishing into the trees. Each terrifying encounter leaves behind only questions, footprints, and fear. If these stories are true, then something terrifying still stalks our wilderness. Waiting. We are going to have a lot of potential Bigfoot evidence. Not much happens in this part of Florida. Has anyone here ever spotted Bigfoot? Hands up. A man named Jeff, unfolding his experience 3 days ago, stopped at the north entrance at Mika River State Park. He felt something was watching him. Suddenly he stopped. He looked to his right where he made eye contact with a very tall, hairy creature. He greeted the creature, a shaggy beast, a simple, "Hey." Without a word, it turned around and ambled into the woods, vanishing between the trees.
My name is Jeff. This happened 3 days ago. Stopped at the north entrance to Mika River State Park. I felt that something was watching me. I stopped, I looked to my right, and I made eye contact with a very tall, hairy hominid, and I said, "Hey," and it turned around and ambled off into the woods.
Another boy standing nearby spoke up about his encounter. He was walking and felt like something or someone was staring at him. So he turned around and was astonished to see the large creature. He was amazed. What do you think about the creature? Could it be a Sasquatch? He pulled the scope, zoomed in and put it right at it. It had brown eyes, the nose was flattened out, and all I remember is just watching it. We just turned around and looked like it was completely gone.
Walking and I just felt like somebody was staring at me. So I turned around and I was like, "Who is that?"
I pulled the scope and looked right at it and zoomed in on it. Big brown eyes, the nose was like flattened out, and all I can remember is just watching it breathe. We just turned around and head back to the house, turned around and looked, and it was completely gone.
In April 2012, a man was hitchhiking, and he was going to go down and camp out underneath the underpass. He lay down and slept for a short time, woke up to a weird, strange, and unfamiliar sound that was coming right down the embankment. It was a terrifying moment. We know Mayaka was a hotspot, and the number of witnesses at the town hall just confirmed that. The woman rubbed her eyes, convinced it couldn't be what it looked like. Bigfoot. They all compare it to a bear, a cow, and a human all at once is what it sounded like. The hair was very long, just flowing in the wind all the way down the body.
In April of 2012, and I was going to go down and camp out underneath the underpass. And slept for a little while, and I woke up to a strange sound that was coming right down the embankment. Just like the ah, ah.
Another camper spotted two big red eyes. He backed up, eyes popping. He was like, either I'm hallucinating or that's Bigfoot. No way. The investigators are collecting some pretty interesting reports from all across Southwest Florida, but there are few to focus on, including some that are very recent. They are going to look into those reports and hopefully they can nail down that area that's in the general Mayaka.
And I was like, holy crap.
We're getting some pretty interesting reports here from all across Southwest Florida, but there's a few we want to focus on, including some that are very recent. We're going to look into these reports and hopefully we can nail down an area that's in the general Mayaka area that we can focus on for our final night.
The road was Queet, and he walked it simply to stretch his legs and clear his mind. The air felt strange, and the creepy sensation made him stop. Slowly, he turned to the left, searching for the source of feeling. His breath caught as he made eye contact with a massive ape-like creature watching him silently. He'd heard the tales, but never believed them, until now. That thing could only be Bigfoot. He gave a hesitate, "Hey," and the creature simply ambled off into the trees.
I was walking down the road, just getting a little exercise, and I got a creepy feeling. So I stopped and I looked to the left, and I immediately made eye contact with a big, hairy hominid. I knew the only thing it could be was a Bigfoot. Finally, I said, "Hey!" And it ambled off into the palmettos and disappeared.
When the sun sets and darkness falls, a different world awakens. The night, often feared, often misunderstood, becomes a stage of stories unseen in daylight. Ronnie and Mariah caught in the middle of two vocalizations. They have vocalization on both sides of them. So they're in front and behind of where they're just traveling into. It sounds to Russell like they've actually placed themselves in the middle of that attention. "Hey Ronnie, there's something moving. Did you hear it? It's coming from over there."
We are caught in the middle of two vocalizations.
Copy. They have vocalizations on both sides of them, so they're in front and behind of where they're just traveling into. It sounds to me like they've actually placed themselves in the center of that attention.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
It's coming from that direction.
It watched from the edges. Its involvement was secret, a secret that could shatter lives if ever brought to light. They have no idea what that is. In the dead of night, something hit the ground. Something either fell or was thrown just now. There's definitely something moving there. He thought something was coming up their way. It's definitely a vantage point for them to be up higher. She could still hear it up, sharp and sudden. The sound they heard was back there. Whatever made that sound is probably coming that way, because they keep on hearing those creepy sounds. What do you think? What kind of animal sounds like that?
Did you hear that?
Yeah,
Something either fell or was thrown just now.
there's definitely movement over here. I think something's coming up this way. I feel like we need to be on higher ground.
All right, well then let's go that way. Well, it's definitely a vantage point for them to be up higher.
Yeah.
That wasn't an echo. That was something else. Something, or someone, was tracking Ronnie and Mariah. At first it was just one branch snap, then another, then three. All of them were in different directions. Too many, too close. It had a pattern now, a purpose. They are not trying to catch them. They are trying to trap them, aren't they? Russell knows for a fact that if they call for him and need his help, he'll definitely go.
So you think whatever we heard up there is now down there?
Yeah. They're tracking us. Oh. They're coming around now. Oh boy. 1, 2, 3. There are 3, not 2.
I know for a fact that if they call for me, or they need my help, I go.
The sync Sasquatch footage in Logan Canyon of Utah. It became clear to investigators after doing a size comparison on location, using a man that is 6 feet tall and 220 pounds, how large this Sasquatch is around 1 to 2 feet taller than the human is, and is over twice as wide and twice as thick. It's too big to a man, too heavy. He is confident that the video is legit and believes a large hominid species did indeed exist. This thing, whatever it is, it's not human. He kept his eyes fixed in the direction. The creature had walked the fading footsteps, stirring a quiet question in the back of his mind. What was it really searching for? He discovered dozens of tracks scattered across the ground. Fresh, overlapping and hinting at a presence both recent and elusive, as if the creature had left silent warnings. No way. This Sasquatch video is next level, wild, mysterious, and totally mind-blowing when compared to a large man.
And 220 pounds, how large this Sasquatch is. It's around 1 to 2 feet taller than he is, and is over twice as wide and twice as thick. Searching in the direction the creature was walking, we discovered dozens of tracks along a creek that are around 15 inches long and nearly 8 inches wide at the toe splay.
Their expedition led them to the famous Deadly Bomb Site, a place whispered about in fearful legends of Bigfoot. They discovered deep, massive, giant tracks marked the ground, an eerie signature left behind by something vast and elusive. A few feet from a log structure that contains massive logs on a steep mountainside. The track was sunk several inches deep into the soft earth, and its toes stove in the deep mountainside. The track was over 14 inches long and was nearly 8 inches wide at the toe splay. An enormous print that spoke of a creature far larger than anything they had ever seen. Only a few steps ago, from a massive log structure, the huge Bigfoot track pressed deep into the earth, a hunting reminder that something immense and unknown was near. This Bigfoot track was only a few feet away from a massive log structure. It was pointed right towards this structure, which appeared to be filled with heavily relocated logs.
The track was sunk in a few inches, and its toes drove into the steep mountainside. The track was over 14 inches long and was nearly 8 inches wide at the toe splay. This Bigfoot track was only a few feet away from a massive log structure. It was pointed right towards this structure that appears to be
at a secluded hunting property belonging to a close friend. An unforgettable and chilling encounter took place. It was a quiet afternoon when the two men arrived at the edge of the property. The driver, accompanied by his friend in the passenger seat, pulled the truck off the main road and brought it to a stop. Both doors opened almost simultaneously as they stepped out of the vehicle and closed the front doors behind them. But before they could even open the back doors to retrieve their hunting gear, the eerie stillness was shattered. Out of nowhere, a powerful and deafening roar pierced through the silence. It wasn't just a scream, it was something deeper, more primal. A thunderous, guttural roar that echoed through the woods, with an intensity neither of them had ever experienced.
4 o'clock in the morning, we had pulled in, my truck would pulled in off of the road at this hunting property that I hunted at. It belongs to a good friend of mine. And I pulled the truck in off the road and turned it off. And he was in the passenger seat, I was driving. We both opened the front doors. We got out together and we closed the front doors. And then, before we could open the back doors to get our gear, we got screamed at. It was more of a roar than a scream. I mean, it was just loud. It was maybe 75 yards away.
The sound came from approximately 75 yards away, close enough to send a jolt of fear straight through both men. It was loud, impossibly loud, as if whatever made it was far larger and more powerful than any animal they were familiar with.
And it was so loud, just so voluminous, that we could feel it in our chest. That this thing, and you could imagine it, for something to scream at you, you would have to have a chest the size of a barrel. I mean, you'd have to have massive lungs to make that kind of sound.
Known by many names, Sasquatch, Skunkape, Yeti, the creatures we call Bigfoot have stalked human imaginations for generations. Historically, Bigfoot has been reclusive, but recent incidents suggest a shift in behavior, more aggressive, territorial, almost deliberate. From the east of Banff Park, witnesses report the same terrified signs: tree structure torn apart, animal carcasses left as warning. The branches were twisted, not broken, into patterns. This wasn't random. It's communicating. A warning. A man captured Bigfoot. It didn't run. It stood there, 7, maybe 8 feet tall, breathing heavy. No wind, no bird, as if the forest itself held its breath. Then a distant echoing thump, thump, thump. This isn't random behavior. This is horrifying. The creature didn't roar, didn't chase. He was warning him to leave. Not a mistake, not an accident. A warning, and it's close. What happens when the legend you've only heard about comes knocking on your camper door? Today we dive into a terrifying encounter with a creature known as Bigfoot. Deep in the dense wilderness, a camper was unfolding his horrified experience. He thought it was a figure who caused trouble. He rejected the whole thing without hesitation. That was the moment everything changed for him. He couldn't deny it anymore after that. For outdoorsmen, Ted's story became reality after a violent encounter that night.
All of a sudden, the motorhome shook violently. It listed 30 degrees or so. I would anticipate that the tires just about came off the ground.
While sleeping in his motor camp in the middle of Vancouver Island, he went from doubter to believer. He had no idea what was coming. All of a sudden, the motor shook violently. One moment, silence. The next motor home quaked fiercely. It felt like something had grabbed hold on it and refused to let it go. It listed 30 degrees or so, he would anticipate.
I could see the spectrum of this creature, and it was standing on two legs for sure, and it had two upper limbs, and it was extremely hairy, matted hair.
That the tires just about came off the ground startled. Why does it feel wrong? He realized then it wasn't an earthquake. Something huge was rocking the motorhome. It hit him like cold water. Something big, really, really big. A shadow blotted out of the window, tall, impossibly still. It was already there. He saw the spectrum of that creature. It was standing on two legs for sure. And it had two upper limbs, and it was extremely hairy knotted hair. It was the posture that chilled him. It wasn't slithering or skittering. Without thinking, he was up, feet on the floor, body in motion. He ran outside, straight at the thing that has no right to stand like a man. The smell in the air was very stinky, strong, almost dead fish, but musky was very prominent.
I got to the tree line where the firelight had stopped. So basically it was where I was looking into blackness and I'm lit up.
He could hear the footsteps of that creature and it stopped, as it knew he was there. You heard it too, didn't you?
That's when I could hear the footsteps of this creature stop, as it knew I was there.
If I run, will it follow me? The whole moment was still, quiet and eerie. He had no way of defending himself. He pulled himself inside the motorhome, never encountering the creature again. On August 25th, a father and his daughter stepped out from their place for a peaceful walk in their nearby woods. It was a well-illuminated area. The father set the scene and began recording. He planned to share it with his wife. But at the moment, the scene took a surprising turn. Suddenly, his daughter spotted something unusual and whispered to her father, "What's that over there?" Curiously, he responded quickly, "Where?" Pointed out. "Look, over there. It's someone standing there. They are not supposed to be there."
Hey, Dad, what's over there?
Huh?
What's over there?
Where?
It's right there.
There is somebody over there. They ain't supposed to be in our woods.
He asked her, "Do you see that figure clearly? Who's standing over there? He's moving, but why?" For his daughter, he's trying not to show fear. He kept his voice steady and stayed calm. But what appeared was something no one could ignore. It was straight out of every Bigfoot story they'd known.
Who is that? Do you see him? What is that? All right, hey, let's go up here and we'll turn around, all right?
Fully aware of what they'd seen, they quietly slipped away from the forest. In today's van life adventures, Trent treks to the mysteriously beautiful Pacific Northwestern area of the United States to camp deep in the Sasquatch wilderness, with longing to encounter the legendary creature. At the beginning of the day, he decided to hike through the remote wilderness.
I decided to start today off with a hike through the remote wilderness.
And he clearly chose a trail that isn't very well liked. The intention behind this is considering if the rumors are fact-based, Sasquatch sightings and encounters are extremely rare, which is why they've been a question mark for centuries.
And I specifically chose a trail that isn't very popular. And the reason I did that is because if the rumors are true, Sasquatch sightings and encounters are extremely rare, which is why they've been a mystery for centuries.
So with him being in a more remote area in a less traveled trail, he feels like the possibility of him having some sort of encounter, whether it's uncovering footprints in the ground or hearing a sound off in the distance.
On a less traveled trail, I feel like the likelihood of me having some sort of encounter, whether it's finding a footprint in the ground, hearing a sound off in the distance, is a lot more likely than if I were in a more popular area.
This pathway doesn't really have a specific end of line, and if he encounters something on his way, he will approach it with full dedication and strive to meet the target. He was amazed to see the tropical rainforest, but the thing is that it's not actively raining right there. The rainforest stretched endlessly, a dense, tangled maze of deep green and shadowed undergrowth. Yet something felt strange. It was a place of silence and secrets. Without flowers, it felt older and more prima, untouched by the frivolity of colors.
And this trail doesn't really have a specific destination, so I'm just hiking for miles until my heart tells me to stop. And if I encounter something on the way, I'll try to capture it the best I can.
When you are walking alone on a trail like this, it's kind of hard not to feel like you're being watched. He was examining the wilderness.
And when you're walking alone on trails like this, it's kind of hard not to feel like you're being watched.
He saw something big in a dark area way back there. It's beyond him if that's a giant tree stump off in the distance.
I don't know if that's a giant tree stump off in the distance, but there's this big dark area way back there. And I can't quite make up what it is, but I want to go check it out.
He was unsure about what it might be, so he went to see for himself. Rainforests are hauntingly beautiful. The floor of the forest looks like a big old carpet, lies the greenwood floor, a mysterious world shrouded in shadow.
This might be the prettiest forest I have ever seen in my entire life. Look at the floor of the forest right here. Looks like a big old carpet. I just want to roll in it.
His eyes witnessed a big, massive tree. He thinks it's the same thing he pointed out a few steps ago.
And then all of these massive tree stumps. Oh, I think this is the black mass that I saw from the trail.
A moment ago, as he continued his path, a patch of bark caught his attention. He found a strange pattern curved into the bark. It looks like something might be living in there, quiet and hidden. Perfect for a big beast to keep out of sight. With the sun low over the evergreens, Trent made his way towards the Pacific Northwest, where a man named Shane, who has basically dedicated his entire life to uncovering the mystery of Sasquatch. He is known for his scientific evidence-based approach, including the use of trail cameras, cast analysis, and habitat studies. He has become a pivotal figure in the Olympic projects.
On my way to go meet someone very interesting, Shane, who is basically dedicated his entire life to uncovering the mystery of Sasquatch here in the Pacific Northwest.
Trent arrived at Shane's headquarters, a modest yet well-equipped base settled deep in the Pacific Northwest's dense forest. This is the Olympic Project headquarters, the main hub research area. The Olympic Project basically is a group of Sasquatch researchers, some individuals from academia that come together to research the Sasquatch topic.
Wow. This is the headquarters, huh?
This is the Olympic Project headquarters. This is our main hub, our main research area. The Olympic Project basically is a group of Sasquatch researchers, enthusiasts, and some individuals from academia that come together to research the Sasquatch topic.
They are about collecting data as much as they can. Shane was eager to share his recent findings. The room buzzed with maps, trail camera footage, and research gear, a fitting hub for Shane's scientific pursuit of the elusive Sasquatch. As Trent stepped inside, he knew this meeting could be the breakthrough both of them had been waiting for. He was showcasing his thermal camera, which they utilize in nighttime.
We utilize these at nighttime. We use audio units to record on campouts, and then sometimes we have like our longer LDRs, long duration recorders, where we place these out and record for weeks, if not months on end.
Here Shane reveals a little foot, possibly a young or smaller Sasquatch specimen, which was found alongside 14 to 15 inches in track. But there was only one, so that's the really unique impression casted.
We have Littlefoot here, which was up casted up near Mount Rainier. This is what we, be an infant, which was found alongside some 14-inch tracks, but there was only one. And so that's, one example of a really unique impression casted.
Trent crouches beside the footprints, eyes scanning every detail. He was like, what if it's not Sasquatch? It could be a bear, or maybe just some weird animal track. What else could it be? Something they don't know. Shane replied, it's strange. That's why we keep looking.
So, again, you found this just like in the middle of the forest. So alone, like having a baby foot imprint in the middle of the forest, whether it's Sasquatch or not, that's strange.
It is strange.
In the dense, uncharted forest of the Pacific Northwest, legends live in whispers. Stories passed down, dismissed as fantasy or warnings. But one family's ordinary weekend would bring them face to face with the extraordinary. The Johnson family, Mark, Lisa, and their 2 children, Emily and Jake, set out with a quiet retreat in Washington state.
Human movement is very restricted, so it's plausible that some Bigfoots could come in here and not be seen. And maybe that's why no one has ever reported a sighting from here before. Or maybe this particular sighting was a Bigfoot scouting new territory. This video was filmed by a family of 4.
They bought a tent, gear, and a small camcorder. What they captured would shock even seasoned researchers. The researcher team came to them to investigate what they have seen. Johnson doesn't show himself in front of the camera. He said he has a professional reputation to protect. So his wife was ready to share all the mysterious things that happened with them, but she was also concerned about her professional reputation too.
Is a professor, and with his position, he would like some privacy and not have this, associated with his reputation.
So it seems that you're not wanting any fame from this. You really just want to figure out what that was in the woods.
True.
She was clarifying that they were walking this overgrown trail, maybe half a mile off the main loop. At that time, her husband had his cell phone on, and he saw something that was darker, larger, and wide. It doesn't run, it vanishes.
He had his cell phone out, and that's when he saw something that was darker than what a deer would have been, kind of crouching behind a tree.
Can you see it, guys?
My little one started crying, and it was just, it had a creepy feel to it.
1 second it's there, massive, unquestionable, and the next, nothing but rustle of leaves. He asked his family, did anyone see what was out there? And his little child started crying. It was such a horrifying moment for them. Investigators submitting a query. What happened immediately when the video phone was shut off?
Husband, a wife, and their 2 children. The husband said he didn't want to come out and talk to us because he has a professional reputation to protect. His wife said she'd come out and talk to us, but she's also concerned about her reputation professionally. Her condition was that she'd be blurred out and her voice would be altered before she'd go on camera.
Indiana's smack dab in the middle of the Midwest. I mean, it's a very conservative area, conservative attitudes, and people are very guarded about their reputations. People here do not want to seem strange or see strange things.
Would you be able to recount what you observed? She was unfolding the story. I saw something, or someone, obscured by shadow. The figure looked dark, maybe black in color. The figure was tall, unnaturally tall. Could you identify any particular traits or markings? Did you see any sign of what it might have been wearing, or if it had hairs? She didn't notice any facial detail. Whatever it was definitely furry, like some kind of beast. Now's the time for the team to figure out what the figure was.
Oh, yeah.
So can you describe what you saw?
Sure. It was a dark figure, possibly black. It was hunched over. So, you know, it was hard to tell exactly how tall.
Could you see hair? Could you see clothing? Could you see any details whatsoever? Facial details? Anything?
No facial details. Definitely some kind of fur.
The hours of darkness had begun. A camper broadcast live from the wilderness, sharing every moment of his journey with viewers around the world. The landscape faded into shadow. With the live stream concluded, he prepared to end the day's activities, unaware of what was coming next. But just as he settled into his camp,
Listen, chaps, it's been a good hour or so of chatting to the live stream, but I think it's time to head into bed and hunker down. It's 20 to 10. See you later, guys. Cheers for watching.
a sound shattered the stillness, disturbing, sharp, and wild. Exactly what he had aimed for. The silence was broken by the wild barking cries of deer echoing through the trees. It was sudden, annoying. What was making so much noise? The camper froze, listening intently. That would be a terribly freaky noise. He didn't know what it was.
Just what I wanted. Monk chat going crazy. I'm glad that I caught that sort of moment of like doubt on camera. It's very hot. I'm gonna stick it out.
The sound kept going throughout, the night and the worst part. They got even closer and louder. Had something startled it? Or something out there? Was it just a coincidence, or the wildlife behaving strangely? The most unsettling of all, he was alone out there. The noise eventually got so loud and frequent that he just couldn't take it anymore. So he decided it was best to pack up and leave. He grabbed his gear and headed back home. Now, what do you think about that sound? Could it be a fox call or any other animal? Under the cover of darkness, stories unfold. Night falls quietly over the wilderness. Two wildlife investigators set out to investigate the wilderness. Flashlight in hands, backpack. One carries a camera, the other is a field researcher. They think they're alone, but in the forest, no one truly is. Every forest has its secret. But this one is different. A faint movement of whisper behind him. Something touched his neck. Like if somebody or something poked him, it was cold, like finger. For a moment, time stood still. No animal in sight, just a touch, and then nothing.
Something like poked me on the back of the neck. Felt like one finger.
One
and then
finger.
I'm having this weird like pressure thing going on with my ear. So it's like making the sounds out here like overwhelming, but it's just in my right ear. My left one's fine, not bothering me.
That's weird.
Yeah. I feel strange out here though.
I really do too.
I don't know what it is.
But one said when dealing with the Bigfoot stuff, he's pretty sure that they've mastered the craft of concealing their identity from them. What if Bigfoots reach out from the shadow of the soul? Maybe Bigfoot's spirit is tapping people on a level we didn't understand. He heard that they can communicate through spirit boxes. He's having this weird pressure thing going on with his ear. Sometimes it feels like he's already been there, not physically, but spiritually, like an impact on your thoughts you didn't invite. Look what he found. A small caved-in hollow, half hidden in fallen leaves and tangled roots, like something had been buried or trapped down there. Maybe like a baby Sasquatch, baby bear, a fox, or something else. This could have been a hibernation zone for a bear, but that's pretty interesting. Literally goes right in there.
Look what I found. A little like caved-in area. Maybe like a baby Sasquatch, baby bear, or like a fox or something. That kind of. This could have been a hibernation zone too for a bear. But yeah, that's pretty interesting.
He caught a fleeting sight of a curved figure lurking in the distance. "Just go further down there," he said, voice low and uneven. He saw the shoulder of something. His fellow uttered, "What do you mean, shoulder of what?" The shoulder of something just ran behind that hill. He shook his head, eyes distant. He swore, in his peripheral. Just for a second he saw something was moving, like a shoulder pulling back into the dark.
Yo, Angelo.
What?
I just saw the shoulders of something.
What do you mean?
Like the shoulders of something just ran behind that hill. When I was just poking my head in here, I swear my peripheral just saw something just go down the other side of that hill.
What did it look like?
Just the back shoulders.
Oh. With like humanoid kinda?
I don't know, it was just black.
Oh, weird. Careful, could be a moose.
It ran behind that hill going down.
What did it look like? Like humanoid, kind of? He was not sure about it. It had a shoulder. Just one. At least that's all he saw. It was in black. It was weird.
No, I just saw it, and I'm almost certain it was like...
That's creepy.
It was something.
Well, like I said, people have said that they see like black things, like creatures.
Oh, yeah.
Moving between the trees really fast.
Oh my God. Who's down there? We mean no harm.
What do you think about it? Darkness blankets the wilderness. Some creatures rise with the start. Others stay hidden, unseen and almost unknown. For centuries, people have spoken of something moving in the shadows. Not wolf, not bear, something else. This is the best kind of spot because there's obviously something going on out there. Deep in the Olympic wilderness, one camper reported something strange, just after midnight. He had some experience to say that in this location, one of them possibly might be a Bigfoot. And the other thing he mentioned before might be a ghost or something paranormal. He doesn't have a clear idea.
Reason why is because there is a very creepy and weird story about a whispering woman who wanders out here. There's also something else kind of going on in this place, and what I think is there's possibly a Bigfoot. So I asked a lot of you guys on X tonight. I guess that's what we're doing tonight. This is kind of the perfect spot because there's obviously something going on out here.
What he means is, they've tried the 3 knocking things, and they weren't ignored. Something reacted. Keep the camera on. He might catch something. All the way through in case it happens again. The noise hasn't stopped. He's still hearing it. Something really just moved over there. The camera catches it too, movement in the corner. Unmistakable.
So, kind of want to keep the camera rolling all the way through in case that happens again, and we are hearing something. Jeez. Frog? Something literally just moved over here. I don't know what that was.
His eyes search the wilderness. He has no idea what he just heard. His mind races as he moves forward, picturing what might be out of sight. He imagines things will only get stranger the further he goes. He hesitates for a second, then mutters, "Let's keep moving." He is not searching for anything specific. He's there just for the experience, to see what unfolds. He is there to feel it for himself. There's only one way to go now. He knows it's risky, but he has to go this way.
Didn't really make sense. And we also heard some sound kind of like that even when I was approaching it. It was so loud that it was like actually echoing through the woods.
Over and over he hears someone, following, maybe watching. The sound won't stop. He is not alone. He leaned forward, listening, then said softly, "Is someone down there?"
Imagine the further in we go, the worse it's gonna get. But let's keep moving. Bugs or no bugs, we're here for the experience. Let's see what happens. Okay, we gotta go down this way. Anybody down there? I keep hearing somebody.
If Sasquatch is a hoax, then it's the most persistent, anatomically accurate, and geographically inexplicable hoax in modern history. To date, thousands of footprint casts have been collected across North America and beyond. Many of them in extremely remote wilderness, where the odds of discovery are so low, it would make no sense for a prankster to go through the trouble. And yet people do find them. So what makes these footprints so convincing? It starts with repeated anatomical features, patterns not seen in human tracks, but found consistently in primate anatomy. One of the most significant indicators is the mid-tarsal break, a flexible joint in the middle of the foot common in great apes like gorillas and chimpanzees, but absent in modern humans. While our feet have an arched structure, these tracks suggest a flat, hinge-like flexibility that allows the foot to adapt to rough terrain. Some of the most compelling casts show human-like footprints, but at inhuman proportions. Prints measuring up to 18 inches long, showing dynamic toe movement, deep pressure ridges, and even asymmetrical steps, details that point to living, flexible feet, not hard molds. Dr. Jeff Meldrum, a physical anthropologist and expert on primate locomotion, has spent years analyzing these tracks. His research points to traits that suggest weight shifting, terrain adaptation, and biological structure, including how the toes grip more firmly on sloped or slippery surfaces, but relax on flat ground. These are movements no wooden or rubber hoax foot could replicate. Some casts go further, showing dermal ridges, the fine skin lines found on fingers and the soles of our feet. These ridges are also present in gorillas, chimpanzees, and, apparently, in Sasquatch. They're incredibly difficult to fake. Police fingerprint expert Jimmy Chilcutt reviewed several casts and said, "If someone faked these, they should be forging money instead. These aren't just broad shapes carved into foam. They show wear, weight distribution, and even injury." In some rare cases, researchers have tracked specific foot injuries, a warped heel, a toe deformation, only to find matching prints years later in the same region, showing the injury's progression and healing through natural callousing. A hoaxer would need not just deep anatomical knowledge, but foresight and access over years to pull that off. Dr. Grover Krantz, another renowned anthropologist, was blunt in his analysis. "You can't fake pressure ridges." He was referring to the subtle compression patterns in the soil, signs that a real, soft, living foot pressed down, shifted weight, and moved forward with force. Of course, there are fakes out there, some of them laughable. Photos exist of crude wooden Sasquatch feet being held up proudly. But those obvious forgeries do not explain the best evidence collected under controlled circumstances by trained scientists in untouched wilderness. And this isn't just a North American phenomenon. In 1951, mountaineer Eric Shipton was scaling the Himalayas when he stumbled across a line of 13-inch humanoid tracks at over 19,000 feet above sea level. The photos made headlines around the world. The prints were deeply embedded in the snow, clearly fresh, and showed a broad foot with an offset big toe, a trait found in some non-human primates. Shipton was baffled. "Nobody goes up to 19,000 feet just to make a joke," he said. And he was right. These weren't just oddities. They were structured, deliberate, biological footprints, appearing in terrain so inhospitable that faking them would be both impractical and senseless. This type of footprint evidence, when evaluated seriously, builds a consistent picture, not just of something big, but of something real, something adapted to survive, to move silently across rugged terrain, and to leave behind traces, even if only for those paying close enough attention. If a creature like Bigfoot exists, and it's as elusive as witnesses claim, then perhaps one of the best chances we have of detecting it isn't through sight, but through sound. Over the years, researchers have collected a remarkable range of audio recordings that defy easy explanation. These aren't distant echoes or wildlife calls misheard in the dark. These are clear, unsettling vocalizations recorded in remote wilderness areas, some of which have been analyzed by linguists, sound engineers, and skeptics alike, and still leave more questions than answers. Among the most famous are the Sierra Sounds, recorded in the 1970s by Ron Moorhead and Al Berry deep in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Armed with a microphone and a cassette recorder, the men were hoping for proof of movement. What they captured instead were bizarre, guttural voices, sometimes aggressive, sometimes conversational. The pitch variations, intensity, and speed were unlike anything native to the area, and far beyond what a human could fake without specialized equipment. Despite online jokes and casual claims that "my dog sounds like that," or "my teenage son hoots like that all the time," serious analysts have taken a different view. Scott Nelson, a retired U.S. Navy cryptologic linguist, reviewed the Sierra Sounds and offered a chilling conclusion. The language elements in the Sierra Sounds appear to follow linguistic patterns, not random animal noise. He wasn't just guessing. Nelson, trained in identifying structured communication, believed the recordings captured a real language, spoken by something non-human. And the Sierra Sounds are just the beginning.
I played it over again. And over, my son said, "Dad, what are you doing? What's wrong with you?" I said, "Son, there's a language here, and that is not a human being."
There's also the Ohio howl, a now iconic recording made by an anonymous witness deep in the rural Midwest. Captured from what must have been hundreds of yards away, the howl is so loud, so haunting, that it triggers distant dogs to start barking in the background. The sound rises and falls like a siren, but sirens don't echo from the center of uninhabited forest. The howl builds, sustains, then drops back into silence, and listeners are left with chills. Researchers and independent explorers have since collected hundreds of vocal samples, including whoops, howls, growls, rapid chatter, and what sounds eerily like whispered dialogue. The patterns are consistent. The tone is always too low, too wide-ranging, or too fast for the average human vocal range. And they tend to come from regions with a history of Bigfoot sightings. If it's not a person, and not a known animal, then the question becomes much harder to dismiss. In many of these recordings, it's not just the sound that alarms researchers, it's the response. Nearby animals, dogs, elk, even coyotes, go silent, flee, or begin vocalizing as if they've heard something foreign, as if something larger than them has entered their territory. For skeptics, audio has often been dismissed as inconclusive. But for those who've spent time analyzing the frequencies, measuring the decibels, and comparing the patterns, this vocal evidence stands as one of the most compelling categories of Bigfoot research. Because it's hard to hoax something you can't see, and harder still to fake something that speaks back. When we talk about Bigfoot hiding in the trees, there is one piece of footage that cannot be ignored. Many call it one of the best pieces of evidence ever caught on camera. The name is Paul Freeman, and the footage dates back to August of 1992 in the Blue Mountains of Oregon. Paul Freeman wasn't just an average outdoorsman with a camera. He was an experienced former U.S. Forest Service patrolman, a man who knew the wilderness like the back of his hand. Freeman had been frequenting Deduct Spring for weeks after noticing something unusual. Massive footprints pressed into the soil, with a stride and size that no known animal could match.
August 20th, 1992, Blue Mountains, Oregon. Paul Freeman, an experienced former U.S. Forest Service patrolman, has been frequenting Deduct Spring for a few weeks after seeing unusual footprints.
First came the tracks, ample evidence suggesting Bigfoot activity. Then came the noises, something heavy moving in the timberline, snapping branches with force. And finally came the moment that would change Paul's life forever. With his camera rolling, Freeman saw it, a massive, upright creature, moving with purpose through the forest. The figure wasn't just a blur in the distance. It was there, solid, dark, towering, walking along the trees with striking fluidity.
First, he discovers ample evidence of Bigfoot activity, including multiple tracks.
Yeah, look at there.
Next, he hears something forging its way through the woods. And finally, he sees this.
I hear the brush popping and stuff. Oh, there he goes.
When Paul returned home that day, his son Mike was in the basement. Mike remembers the sound of his father rushing up the stairs, something he had never witnessed before. Paul's face was pale, his body covered in sweat and dirt, and his hands trembling. In Mike's words, it was the only time he had ever seen his father truly scared, and that perhaps said more than the footage itself.
His dad rushed home with the footage.
I kind of ran up the stairs, and here's my dad standing there, and he's covered in sweat and dirt, and he's pale in color, and he's shaking. I always tell people that that's the only time in my entire life that I ever saw my dad scared of anything.
Cliff Barackman, a renowned field researcher and close friend of the Freeman family, has long spoken about the weight of Paul's work. Paul wasn't just a witness, he was a dedicated researcher. For over a decade, Freeman had been compiling reports of sightings, carefully recording the dates and locations on a massive map pinned to the wall of his basement. Every mark represented a story, every pin a possible piece of a much larger puzzle. The Blue Mountains were alive with whispers of Sasquatch, and Paul was determined to find the truth. The data Freeman collected, footprints, maps, and now his video evidence, would go on to be studied more than any other Bigfoot dataset in history. PhDs, anthropologists, and wildlife experts pored over the material, many concluding that it could not easily be dismissed as a hoax.
Paul had been collecting data on a series of maps for 10 years. Every time a sighting report came in, he would record the location and the date on a large map that was hanging in his basement. The evidence collected by Paul Freeman and his network of researchers in the Blue Mountains has been closely examined by more PhDs and anthropologists than any other data set in all Bigfoot history.
Wildlife biologist Floyd Hayes was one of the experts who examined the footage. To him, the figure captured on camera was simply not a bear. While black bears can be large, dark, and occasionally rise onto their hind legs, they cannot walk long distances upright, nor do they exhibit the same posture Freeman's footage revealed. Hayes pointed out the flatter face of the figure compared to the pointed snout of a bear, the way it moved, the way it carried its weight, and the proportions of its body simply didn't add up to anything known. His conclusion was clear: this could not be ruled out as Bigfoot.
A
black bear can be large and black, and it can walk on its two hind legs, but this animal seems to be a fully functional quadruped walking routinely on its hind legs, and bears only walk short distances on their hind legs. This also seems to have a much flatter face than a bear, which has a much more pointed snout. So I don't think that is a bear. I cannot rule this out as being a Bigfoot.
Next came the analysis of Dr. Jeff Meldrum, an anatomist and anthropologist who gained recognition early in his career through his study of Freeman's cast footprints. Meldrum compared the figure's movements to the famous Patterson-Gimlin film of 1967, widely considered the most famous Bigfoot footage ever recorded. What struck him immediately was the massiveness of the figure in Freeman's tape. The proportions were uncanny. A relatively small head set low into the shoulders, the massive trapezius muscles rising high into the back of the skull, broad shoulders supporting arms that swung with impressive length and fluidity. Meldrum pointed out the way the light played across the creature's hair, shifting naturally with movement. Something faux fur could never replicate. If this was a hoax, he argued, it would require someone with extremely advanced knowledge of animal anatomy, costume design, and natural behavior, far beyond the resources available in 1992, and even now, still difficult to replicate convincingly. The Freeman footage has since become one of the crown jewels in Bigfoot research. Unlike many blurry, short clips, Freeman's film shows a full-bodied creature walking naturally through the forest, its size, weight, and gait consistent with eyewitness reports spanning decades. For believers, it is some of the clearest proof that Sasquatch exists. For skeptics, it remains an unsolved riddle, a challenge to dismiss without definitive counter-explanation. What makes Freeman's encounter so compelling is not just the footage itself, but the man behind it. Paul Freeman was no stranger to the forest. He had years of field experience, a background in law enforcement, and a reputation for honesty within his community. His sudden fear and shaken demeanor after the encounter only reinforced the gravity of what he saw.
As it walks across, one can't help but be struck by resemblances to the Patterson-Gimlin film. The massiveness of this figure is impressive. This smallish head set low down on the shoulders with massive musculature. Trapezius coming high up on the back of the head is quite apparent. The length of the arms is impressive.
Even today, nearly 3 decades later, the Freeman footage is still studied, still debated, still dissected frame by frame. And yet, no one has managed to fully debunk it. Experts continue to argue over what was captured that day in the Blue Mountains. Was it just another misidentified animal? A man in a costume? Or did Paul Freeman, in that fleeting August moment, capture one of the rarest glimpses into a living legend? A Sasquatch walking freely through the Oregon wilderness? The answers remain elusive, but the tape endures. And in the world of Bigfoot, that's enough to keep the debate alive. Now we have a bonus sighting for you, one that comes with a local twist and a history of strange activity. A man from Hickory claims he captured Bigfoot on video. But this isn't just any shaky cell phone clip in the middle of nowhere. What makes this case more interesting is where it was filmed. McDowell County, an area already marked by multiple reports of Bigfoot encounters over the years. And this sighting was significant enough to make it onto WCNC News. The Hickory man recalls that it all began with a sound, a heavy thud, followed by the distinct crash of a rock being thrown. That alone was unsettling. Rocks being hurled from the tree line is one of the most frequently reported behaviors tied to Bigfoot encounters. He scanned the woods, heart racing, when movement caught his eye. Something large, something dark, hidden between the trees. Pulling out his cell phone, he pressed record. And there it was, a towering figure partially concealed by the thick forest. Its sheer size dwarfed the surrounding brush. The camera shook as he tried to steady his hands, but the figure never left its place. Watching, waiting.
He captured something amazing on his cell phone camera, video of Bigfoot.
Yeah, he recorded this video in McDowell County where several people reported seeing the creature over the years. NBC Charlotte's Brandon Goldner spoke to the man who described his experience.
McDowell County has long been considered a hot spot, and this sighting only added to the mystery. Locals were divided. Some called him delusional, even mad. Yet, the man insisted he knew what he saw, and he wasn't alone in his belief. Earlier that summer, another local, Vicky Cook, shared her own grainy footage of a similar creature filmed right outside her Cleveland County home. Skeptics dismiss it, believers stand by it, and among them, his granddaughter, who continues to believe her grandfather captured something real, something that still lurks in those North Carolina woods. From chilling shadows in Washington to the swamps of Florida, each encounter leaves us with more questions than answers. Were these frightened campers and families witnesses to a myth, or to something real still walking our forests? The truth remains hidden in the darkness. What do you believe? Could Bigfoot truly roam among us? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more encounters with the unexplained.